Hello, welcome to Old Virginia Homes. My name is Wendy, and I am feeling especially happy today because we're going to be visiting Happy Retreat, an 18th century mansion that was built by Charles Washington, who was President George Washington's youngest brother. By the way, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll check out my others and consider subscribing to Old Virginia Homes so that you don't miss a trip to any of these iconic houses that help make up the historic fabric of our nation. Today's house is actually just over the Virginia line into West Virginia. West Virginia was formed as its own state in 1863, but when this house was built, it was still Virginia land. Join me as we visit Happy Retreat, an old West Virginia home in Charlestown. Let's go. The 6,300 square foot mansion known as Happy Retreat sits on a parcel of land in present-day Charlestown, West Virginia, a town that was formally laid out by Charles Washington in 1786 on 80 acres of land adjacent to his house. In 1780, Charles Washington and his wife Mildred, along with their 4 children and probably some enslaved persons, had moved from Fredericksburg, Virginia to land in Berkeley County, Virginia, which is now Jefferson County, West Virginia. At that time, Happy Retreat did not look like it does today. Earlier buildings were those to the left and right that now flank the central portion. You can really see the separation of these buildings well from the rear facade. The original building from 1780 was this one. However, it was 1 story and not as deep as it is now. In 1785, this portion was built, again as a 1 story. This year also saw additions to the original building and an outbuilding in the back, which became a kitchen and slave quarters. The central portion of the house and the 2nd stories of what became the 2 wings of the house were completed by Judge Isaac Douglas in 1842. The front hall features a cannon barrel newel post, an old banjo clock with a nod to George Washington and Mount Vernon, and a sideboard that was original to the house and was donated back to the estate in recent years. The twin parlors in the central 1842 portion of the house hold family likenesses including portraits and a bust of 3 Washington brothers. For clarification, George Washington had 9 siblings, both full and half. Full brothers included Samuel, Charles, and John. Half brothers included Butler, who died as a newborn, Lawrence, and Augustine. Here we have a bust of George, a painting of Charles, and a painting of Samuel. We also see a lovely portrait of Frances Bassett Washington, who was a daughter-in-law of Charles and Mildred. In 1793, Frances wrote a letter to her aunt, Martha Washington, referring to the prospect of a visit to Happy Retreat, saying, "I am very desirous of carrying my children to visit their grandpapa and grandmama in Berkeley." Remember that Happy Retreat was at one point part of Berkeley County, and Grandpapa and Grandmama would have been Charles and Mildred. A painting in the dining room depicts George Washington's 1784 visit to Happy Retreat. Called Grand Idea, the painting shows Billy Lee, George Washington's enslaved servant, Colonel Charles Washington, General George Washington, Edward Snickers, and General Daniel Morgan, all discussing General Morgan's idea that the Potomac River should be made a route of commerce between the Chesapeake Bay and the Ohio River Valley. This idea eventually led to building the C&O Canal. The Friends of Happy Retreat organization commissioned artist Michael Davis to do the painting. They believe the meeting took place in this room, the front room of the West Wing. The use of the Octagon House remains a bit of a mystery. It's possible that it would have served as a schoolhouse, but that remains unclear. Regardless, it's a great little building. The smokehouse and kitchen would also have housed enslaved workers. In 2022, Friends of Happy Retreat obtained a grant from the West Virginia Humanities Council to facilitate a study of the enslaved community at Happy Retreat. The study is ongoing, and it will be exciting to find out more information about all the people who lived at Happy Retreat. The Friends of Happy Retreat is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to acquiring, preserving, and utilizing the property for public benefit. You can learn more about this historic property and the many cultural programs that take place here by visiting the website www.happyretreat.org. Thank you for visiting Charles Washington's Happy Retreat with me, an old West Virginia home.